Hi, in this video we're going to talk about the literature reading. You've done your birthday and your name speeches, those are the baby speeches, and now you're graduating to the middle speech, which is the literature reading. So with this speech, you're now going to be timed. It's 3 to 5 minutes. You're also going to be coming to the front of the room. Well, we're not doing that now, right? We're doing it on Zoom or on video, but usually in my face-to-face classes, you're graduating to the front of the room. And the next thing is that you're going to be critiqued. So the first two speeches, you didn't get critiqued at all. These ones you will. And so it's timed, it's 3 to 5 minutes, and all of this information is also on Canvas. So you can look up everything that I'm saying today on video, on your Canvas as well. So you have the written and then the video. So it's timed 3 to 5 minutes, and then also it is going to be critiqued. And I'm not going to critique you very harshly. All I'm looking for is vocal variety and using your gestures and things like that. So there's no structure, there's nothing you're turning in with the speech, you're just doing the speech in a timed frame. I do not give time signals, so you need to practice this on your own and time yourself. So that's really important because we haven't had time frames yet, so you need to time this speech. So I always give you a frame. It's 3 to 5 minutes, so you need to always shoot for the middle. So if you go too slow or too fast, you'll land in the time frame. It's really important not to go over time, so you need to time yourself. I know you're probably saying, heck, I don't even want to be up here in the first place. I'm not going to go long. But when you don't time yourself, you're most probably going to go long instead of short. That's my experience. So make sure that you time yourself in this speech. So those are the basics of the speech. Now I'm going to tell you what you're actually doing in the speech. So you're going to read a piece of literature with feeling. So that's called the literature reading assignment. And so you're going to find something that fits you. If you want to be funny, if you want to be dramatic, if you want to make a point about something, that's what you want to find. It can be any literature. So you've got anything that's on Google that you can do. The easiest thing to do, and I just noticed I didn't put it on the board and I will now. So the easiest thing to do would be a manuscript. No, I'm sorry, not a manuscript. A monologue, sorry. Wrong, M word. Monologue. These are the easiest ones to do. Because when you're looking for literature, you want to do something that sounds good out loud. You might have a beautiful poem that looks great on the page, but then when you read it out loud, it's kind of boring. So you want to find something that lends itself to speaking aloud. So a monologue is perfect because that is written for one person to be spoken aloud. And you might say, wow, that's a lot of work. I have to go find a play and then find a monologue and then do that. No, you Google monologues. Yay for Google. And so what you do is you go and you Google monologues and you're going to get tons of stuff because they have monologues for men, for women, comedic, dramatic, whatever you want to do. All right, so you Google monologues. And what's good about the monologues is they're usually 3 minutes because the people that use those monologues the most are people that are auditioning for, I don't know, TV shows or plays, stuff like that, and they're usually 3 minutes. So that's perfect for this assignment. So monologues are the best to do. Another one, a favorite of my students, is the chicken soup books. Now, if you don't know what the chicken soup books are, they're basically a compilation of essays. And at first they started with Chicken Soup for the Soul. So they were just a bunch of stories that were heartwarming, that had a good theme, and they were the right length for this exercise. So my students loved it. Then they had chicken soup for the mother's soul, the daughter's soul, the father's soul, the dog lover's soul, the golf lover's soul. Any soul that you got, they got a book for it. So what's good about that is that if you have a certain theme that you want to talk about, if you want to talk about dogs, you go to the chicken soup for the dog lover's soul, or about being a father or a mother. So that's a really good one to do. And like I said, it's the right time frame for the assignment. So that's double good thing about it. So that's another one. Now I know you love your poetry, so you can do poetry. I would say if you're choosing poetry, to stay away from anything that's really rhymey, because you're going to go in the rhyming scheme and you're not going to get the message across as well. So you want to look at some contemporary poetry. Maya Angelou has some great poetry that sounds really good out loud. Toni Morrison, Bukowski is another one that's really good. So yeah, so if you have those thick books from your English 2 class that has all that literature in there, you might find something in there that would work for this assignment. Spoken word poetry, also called slam poetry, is really good to do for this assignment. I'm actually going to do one for you today, and it's a spoken word. So it's a really good one to do. A lot of times you might find it on YouTube, or you'll find it just on Google. The one thing about spoken word is that you don't need to do it like the slam poets. Slam poets do it really fast. It almost sounds like a rap. You don't need to do that. You need to slow it down so that we can hear what the message is in the slam poetry or the spoken word poetry. Articles and newspapers. That might sound boring. You're like, what? An article from a newspaper or a magazine? But I've heard some really good ones. I had one student who did an article from Sports Illustrated, and it was a first-person account of someone who was on steroids and what he went through. It was so good and so dramatic. And that was from a magazine. So that was really good. And newspapers as well. You don't want to go with a straight news story, but you might find maybe a cold news story, I guess I would call it, or just something that's heartwarming that you might find in the newspaper, like maybe on the different other not the front page, but other pages. I once even heard one on it's called Please God, I'm Only 17, and it was a Dear Abby article. It was so good, and it's about a kid who dies from drunk driving, and he's in the casket saying, please don't do this, and of course he's dead. So it was really dramatic as well. Short stories are good. They have the word short in it, but a lot of times they're not short. So this is where I'll talk about editing your literature. So you need a 3 to 5 minute time frame. In that time frame, you're also doing your introduction, where you tell us why you chose the literature, what the theme is it love, dogs, hate, fatherhood, whatever, and then the title and the author. So that's all your introduction, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So that's part of your 3 to 5 minutes. So short stories might go a little long. That doesn't mean you can't do them. It just means you need to edit it down. The really important part about editing is that you need to stay true to the author. So you can't, if somebody dies, make them live, or if somebody lives, make them die. You know, you can't change the meaning of the story. You need to stay with it. And so you can cut, and edit that way. If you pick a poem and it's really short, you can add something to it. You can add another piece of literature to it. So that's part of the assignment. But if you go with some of the ones that are already 3 minutes, then you're looking good. You don't have to worry about editing. Novels. These are a little challenging. I can't tell you how many people have read the Harry Potter books in this assignment, and I don't know what's going on, because popular demand, I know, is Harry Potter. I don't like Harry Potter. I've never read the books. I've never watched the movies. So I don't know what's going on in the story. And so if you read a story that people don't know, then they don't know what you're talking about. And then if you have to explain it, then it's going to take too long. So I would pick novels that are first person. I've heard the really sad novel called A Child Called It. So sad, about child abuse. But it's all first person, about talking about what he went through with his abusive mother. And so when you're thinking about novels, you want to make sure it makes sense to the audience and that you don't have to explain it too much. And then screenplays, this is where I talk about profanity. Screenplays you can do. That's a scene from a movie or a play or things like that. And all you have to do is Google screenplays and you'll get tons of information. If there's profanity, I'm okay with it. But you need to make sure to give your audience a disclaimer, okay? So that if anybody doesn't want to hear it, they can step out and not have to listen to it. So that's really important that you give that disclaimer. In fact, I'm doing a spoken word today, and there's one word that in there that's a profanity. It's not too bad. It's not even a word I say in real life. I've tried to cut it out, but you'll see. And so it just kind of needs that oomph in there. And then you can also do things that you wrote yourself. So if you're a writer, just do it. Do what you've written. So if you write poetry, if you write spoken word, whatever, you can do that. You can tell us you wrote it, or you can use a pen name. Now that doesn't mean you can just come up here and wing it and just talk to the audience and say, hey, I wrote this. No, it needs to be actually written, something you wrote. All right, so those are the things that you can read. Now, I'm going to tell you what you can't read. You cannot read song lyrics. Song lyrics are too short for this assignment, and also the chorus repeats. And so that would get really boring to hear the chorus every, so often. You don't want to be up here going, I'm a bee, I'm a bee, I'm a bee, I'm a bee, okay? That's going to be boring after a while. So no song lyrics. Now, but Tupac Shakur is a singer, right? But he's also a writer. He has a book of poems. So you can do his book of poems, but you can't do his songs. All right, so there's that. And children's books. No children's books. I don't want Green Eggs and Ham or The Poop Book or anything like that, okay? That may be fun, but not for me. So I don't want to listen to that. So no children's books. But you can do Shel Silverstein, because I'm the teacher and I like him and you can do it. So there's that. All right, so basically what this assignment is I don't want to say you're acting out the literature. You're acting out the literature. I know that word scares people, but I want you to find something that fits you, that you feel that you want to say. And so if there's a message you want to give us, here's your chance to do it with somebody else's words. So it's really for you to practice your delivery without worrying about writing the speech. So that's why I have this assignment as the next assignment. And the only way you're going to lose points is if you go short or long. I do give 30-second leeway on either side, but that's it. And if you read directly from the book. All right, so now I know you're confused. You might get it from a book, but what you want to do is have a script. This makes it easier for you to read and give the audience eye contact, okay? So if you read from a book, it wants to close on you. The print is too small, and so you need to type it out or write it out so that it's easier for you to read. I'm going to show you my script. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it as well, but I've double spaced it. And also, if you get it from the internet, what you want to do is give each sentence its own line. Kind of like if you were reading a play. If you ever read a play, a script of a play, each line is separate. And that's what you want to do with your literature. This is a spoken word poem, so it's already like that, but I double spaced it. I know it pretty well, so I don't need it any bigger, But if you need it to be bigger, then that will work as well. If you notice, I have it in a binder. This is best. You're going to be at home, maybe doing this on video or doing it on Zoom. So usually I'll have this in the classroom, but we're not in the classroom. So what I want you to do is get any kind of binder that you have at home already. Don't go buy one, and put your script in it and use this. Because what happens is you've got something nice and sturdy to have your literature in. Because if it's in paper, you're going to get nervous, you're going to shake, and it's going to be really hard to read. So if you have it enclosed in a binder, then it's a lot easier to read. So how the assignment in the speech is going to go is you're going to be standing here, and I'm going to ask you to stand if you're in Zoom or if you're videoing this or whatever you're doing with it. I want you to stand, and you're going to give us the intro with the book closed. I'm calling it a book. That's what we call it in oral interpretation. So the book will be closed when you're giving your intro, and then when you open your book, that's when the literature starts. That's how we know that the literature is beginning. And in the intro, again, you are going to tell us what the theme is, why you chose the literature, and the title and the author. So that is your introduction to this speech. And then you open your book and you start the literature. So I'm actually going to give you a demonstration of this speech. I'm going to give you a disclaimer saying there is one cuss word in this speech. And I am allowing it, like I said, for this speech only. Doesn't mean you can cuss in all your speeches after this. Just this is your chance and that's it, okay? So now I'll give you my demonstration of the literature reading. I think I can say why all of you are here today. It's to get a good education and get a degree and get a good job and make lots of money. You all know what my job is, of course. I'm your teacher. And I have to tell you, I love my job. I'm not going to make a whole lot of money at my job, but I still love my job. But not everybody sees my job the way I see it. And that's what my poem's about today. It's called What Teachers Make by Taylor Malley. Before I start though, my wish for you is that you find a job that you love as much as I love mine and make a lot of money. This is What Teachers Make by Taylor Malley. He says the problem with teachers is, what's a kid going to learn from someone who decided his best option in life was to become a teacher? He reminds the other dinner guests that it's also true what they say about teachers. Those who can, do. Those who can't, teach. I decide to bite my tongue instead of his and resist the temptation to remind the other dinner guests that it's also true what they say about lawyers. But because we're eating after all, and this is polite company, I mean, you're a teacher, Taylor. Be honest. What do you make? I wish he hadn't done that. Asked me to be honest. Because you see, I have a policy about honesty and ass kicking. If you ask for it, I'll let you have it. You want to know what I make? I make kids work harder than they ever thought they could. I make a C+ feel like a Congressional Medal of Honor and an A- feel like a slap in the face. How dare you waste my time with anything less than your very best? I make kids sit through 40 minutes of study hall in absolute silence. No, you may not ask a question. No, you may not get a drink of water. Why? Because you're bored. You're not thirsty. That's why. I make parents tremble in fear when I call home. Hi, this is Mr. Malley. I hope I haven't called at a bad time. I just wanted to talk to you about something Billy said today to the biggest bully in the class. He said, "Leave that kid alone. I still cry sometimes, don't you?" And it was the noblest act of courage I had ever seen. I make parents see their children for who they are and what they can be. So you want to know what I make? I make kids wonder. I make them question. I make them criticize. I make them apologize and mean it. I make them write. And I make them read. I make them spell definitely beautiful over and over and over again until they will never misspell either of those words again. I make them show all their work in math and hide it in their final drafts in English. I make them understand that if you've got this, and if you follow this, and if anyone ever tries to judge you by what you make, you give them this. It's a certain finger, but I'm not going to do it. Let me break it down for you so that you know what I say is true. I make a goddamn difference. What about you? All right, so as you saw, that was a nice angry piece. I got to scream and yell, and it talks about teachers. It's really talking about the elementary school teachers that have a huge job. I don't think I could do it myself, and I appreciate every single one of them. And if any of you are in the elementary school field, hats off to you. It's really a great field, and any of us would be here without you guys. So that was my message. All right, so if you have any questions about this, you can always email me, comment me, whatever on this online stuff we're doing. The main thing to do is find something that fits you. That fit me because I'm a teacher. I love that I get to scream. I don't do the finger because I'm afraid my boss is going to walk by and go, "What are you doing?" to this class. But I threw it in there. As you can see, it added to the drama, I guess. So I left it in there. And of course, if you don't feel like you want to hear that, you can always mute yourself, I guess, since we're on the online. So that's everything about the literature reading. The dates and everything are on Canvas. All of this information that I told you about today is written on Canvas as well. And yeah, so there you go. Have fun with this.